good afternoon, good evening, and good night, I guess, depending on what part of the world you're in and what time it is over there right now as you're watching this. This is a workshop on phonics. And it's really important because without phonics, children will not learn how to read. I know that there are lots of programs that focus on sight words, and I am a big proponent of sight word recognition. But in order to develop strong readers, we have to go to phonics. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. You are probably going to minimize myself so that you can focus on the screen and not on me. So I'm minimizing myself. Okay, here we go. Hopefully this will work. Okay, phonics. The professional development is for early years and beginning readers. Sometimes if you have some struggling readers, this might also come in handy. My name is Dr. Tina Edebo. I am the president and CEO of Sion Educational Services. I have been working with schools in Nigeria and in Houston for the past, I would say for the past 10 years. Before that, I was a career educator. I was an educator for about 35 years. I actually became a principal in the school district in Houston, and I was actually the first African principal in the Houston Independent School District. And that's all there is to know about me, except the fact that I have two beautiful sons and two beautiful grandsons, and I'm married. I've been married for 43 years now. So that's all there is to know about me, apart from the fact that I am passionate about education and about educational instruction. Reading is fundamental. So this is a reading map. I got it from timeforlearning.com. What it's done is it's taken all the reading components and it's spread it all over the age group from 0 to third grade, which would be from 0 to primary 3. And we're right now focusing on the portion of it that is just print concepts and alphabetic systems like phonics and phonomics. Phonemics, sorry, not phonomics, phonemics. And we're not going to talk about vocabulary. We're not going to talk about comprehension. That's a whole different workshop. As important as it is, right now we're dealing with the mechanism of reading. So let's jump into it. Print awareness is the number one mechanism of reading. Children need to be aware of what print represents. Print awareness is also called print concepts. So if you go back to the screen here, this purple block is known as print concepts. Print concepts includes understanding that print has meaning, that it's not just scribble scratch all over the wall, that they know how to handle books, they understand text, and they know what parts of books and what parts of books represent different things. So print awareness includes the knowledge that print carries meaning. It includes the understanding that books contain letters and letters contain words and words have meanings. It also is a child's earliest introduction to literacy. So when you talk about a print-rich environment, you want an environment where the children are exposed to print as much as possible. But you also have to be careful because I've been into some classrooms where they were told to have a print-rich environment, so they just put print everywhere. And the print was not really, it wasn't meaningful. If you're going to have a print-rich environment, it needs to be meaningful. Print awareness also includes an understanding of what books are used for. They understand how to turn the pages. If you look at this picture on your right, this child is watching as the father is turning the pages. They understand that you read from top to bottom. They understand that you identify the title, that you read from left to right, how to identify the front of the book, how to identify the back of the book. All of these, as fundamental as you may think they are, because you know how to read, for a child for whom reading is a new concept, these are important things that you as the teacher, have to make sure that they know. So that's one of the reasons why reading aloud to a student is really important. When you're reading aloud to the students, hold up the book, turn the pages, look at the pictures. You need to be as animated as you can be so they can understand that you're reading, that what's coming out of your mouth is related to what's on the written text. Print awareness comes about through several things. First of all, active intervention of adults and other children. As you're reading, you're pointing out the words. As you're driving along, you're seeing things. It's so surprising how quickly children recognize symbols. Like, I remember when my little grandbaby, every time he saw an M, he would, oh, McDonald's, McDonald's. They recognize symbols, but they recognize them by interacting with them. Children begin to understand the system of printing when they're being read to regularly. So as a teacher in the classroom, what you want to do is you want to have a time when you read to the students. It doesn't have to be a long book. It could be a short book. It could be a short story. You could even create your own story, draw some pictures or cut some pictures out and create a story and make sure the text is big enough for them to see. But you need to do that regularly. When they're allowed to play with letters, I have this activity where you've got foam letters, and they're allowed to use the letters to just play with them, to just bring them together. When they engage with word games, and also when they receive formal reading instruction. As all of this happens, they become aware of print. How many times are you driving? You don't even know how many times you're actually reading. Things just come. You're so used to seeing things that you're not really sure, you're not aware that you are reading the text as they come. That's why banners and posters are so effective for advertising, because they send subliminal messages. The more people are read to, the more they encounter print media, the more they're able to the more they're able to read. As they participate in interactive reading with adults and children. And interactive reading is, if you look at this picture on your right, you can see that that teacher is actually interacting with the child. The child is not focusing on the words coming out of the teacher's mouth. That child is focusing on the words on the page, and the teacher and the children together interact as they read. When this happens, they learn about the features of the book, such as when you hold up a book, you say, I'm going to read this story. It is by, and you're telling the child who the author is. You're going to talk about who the illustrator is, the book title, the page number. You say, I'm going to turn to page 1. As much as you might think that all of that isn't necessary, it actually is. These are the fundamentals of getting the children prepared to learn to read. When they develop the very important concept of what a word is, the little children, they blah blah blue blah 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 blah. They just talk. They feel that what they're saying is understood. Blah 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 blah. They're talking. But as they understand what a printed word is, it now begins to convey meaning to them. And when you read to them, the words become meaningful, and and the context, the meaning of what you're reading, becomes real to them. It's really important that you continue to read to students, even if it's just reading what's on the board, even if it's just having them write something and tell you what they've written, or they draw a picture. One of the things I really loved to do when I was teaching the early years, when I was teaching like really early years, is I would have them draw a picture, and then I'd ask them to tell me what's in the picture, and I would write down what they had told me. So, for example, if a child has drawn a picture of a dinosaur, you know, and they'll say, oh, this is T-Rex. I will write down, this is T-Rex. So then when the next time they'll come down, I'll say, look, this is T-Rex. They understand that what I have written is what came out of their mouth. Number two, the second part of reading is phonological and phonemic awareness. And you have to understand that there's a difference between phonological and phonemic awareness and phonics. Phonological and phonemic awareness is understanding that there is a sound that comes out associated with a letter. Before children can learn to read print, they need to become aware of how the sound works. So when you're talking A for apple, B for, you know, the old-fashioned way of doing it. I know a lot of people are using hooked on phonics now, and I'm not hooked on phonics, Jolly Phonics now. So they have it all a different way. But even something like for snake, you know, all they have to understand what the sounds mean in the context of a word. They have to understand that the words are made up of individual speech sounds or phonemes. The speech sound, the S is a S, the T is a T, the let's say the S, the I is a I, and the T is a T. So SIT, they don't have to be able to look at it and put it together, but they have to understand that that sound is represented within the word. That's the difference between phonological and phonemic awareness and phonics. A child's skills in phonological and phonemic awareness is a good predictor of later reading success or difficulties. And one of the things that you can see is that sometimes you have children who will see one letter or who will want to say something and use the wrong letter. I had an experience of that with my grandbaby. He wanted to say Grammy, That's what he calls me, Grammy. But he couldn't say G, so he'd say Dammy. So for a long time, Grammy was Dammy. But he very quickly got over that and realized that the first letter in that word, the first sound in that word wasn't a D, but a G. That's phonemic awareness. He may not know how to write it. He may not know what it looks like on print. And the D sound. That's phonological and phonemic awareness. So when I say A for apple, it's not that he can read the word apple, but he knows that the first sound in that word is the A sound. Let's have some examples. Identify words that rhyme. This is one of the things, awareness. So like you come up with a word like dine, mine, fine, kind. That's one of the activities that help children develop phonemic awareness. Then counting the numbers in a syllable, or counting the numbers of syllables in a word or in their own name, like Mary. Let's say my name is Tina. There are two. Maybe somebody else's name is Bissy. There are two. They need to. My grandbaby's name. You'll hear a lot about my grandbaby. You've got to excuse me. I'm a very proud grandmother. But my grandbaby's name is Ollie, so it's Ollie. And when he says his name is Ollie, he counts those two syllables. Okay, so counting the syllables in a name, recognizing alliteration. Pardon me. Excuse me. I'm going to take a cup of coffee, please. Alliteration is when you have words the same or two words that start with the same letter, the same sound. And we have a lot of that, especially in the Yoruba language. I don't know about any other language. In the Yoruba language, you have moi moi do do. You know, all of those. That's alliteration. We have kuli kuli. That's alliteration. Go go, come come. Those are, you know, it's when you're but actually even more than that, because that's just doubling the word. But you have like woolly woody, or dimmy dan. When you have two words that start with the same sound, that's alliteration. And children need to be able to do that as part of their phonemic awareness. That they're allowed to segment sentences. I'm going to come back to that later on. They're allowed to segment a sentence into its various words. So you've got a full sentence. The sun shines. So there are games that you can play that will allow them to segment those words. So it's the sun shines. If you take the off, it's sun shines. If you take the shines off, it's sun, right? If you take the sun off, it's the shines. So there are games that you can play with the children to help them develop this ability to segment the words within a sentence. Identify the syllables in a word. We talked about that before. Identify the syllables in a name, and I said identify the syllables in a word. And the last of the things under phonological or phonemic knowledge is phonemic awareness itself. The last of the things that you would look for would be phonemic awareness itself. So this is an example of being able to count syllables: balloon, elephant, alphabet. So there are 5 levels of phonological awareness. These are activities that you can do that will help children become phonologically aware. You have to build these into your lesson plans. You have to build these into your everyday activities as you're reading. One of the things is, as I said, rhyming and alliteration. Another one is sentence segmentation. Then you have syllables and onset and rhymes. And then you have phonemic awareness itself. Okay, so we're going to start with rhyming and alliteration. Rhyming, same sounds of some part or especially the end of a word or a line of verse. So blog, bog, cog, clog, dog, log, frog, frog, hog. Those are all rhyming words. They all end with the og, og, og. And alliteration is the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent words or of closely connected words. So you've got big business, jumping jack, no nonsense, no, tough talk, quick questions, money matters, picture perfect, high heaven, coolie. Those are alliterations. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to, I need you to stop this video, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to come up with, in your groups, to come up with some rhymes. You may already know some nursery rhymes or some rhymes that you like, and some alliterations to share with your group. You have about 5 minutes. All right, welcome back. We're going on to the second part of phonological awareness. This is sentence segmentation, when the child can divide individual sentences into the words that form them. So, for example, one of the activities you could do is you could take a sentence and have the child say the parts of the sentence until they identify a single word. So, let's go over there. That has 4 words. Well, it has 5. Let's cut it down to 4. Go over there. That's 3 words. Okay. You have the child tell you what is the word in the middle. What word is in the middle? What word is at the end? Take one of them out. What's left? This is called sentence segmentation. You can do it by having note cards, and you write each individual word on a note card, and you have the children form their own sentences from those note card words, and then you tell them to remove one and read it. So what you want them to do is to be able to segment the sentence, and the reason you want them to be able to do that is because later on, when they start dealing with vocabulary and comprehension, sentence segmentation is really very important. Another activity is to ask the children to represent the words in a sentence by standing in front. So, for example, you have a sentence, you've got a sentence strip. Let's say you have a big sentence strip on your blackboard, or you have words written on your blackboard, and you call on a child to go and stand in front of one of the words or in front of a chair. Each one, this activity, you have the children lined up in front of chairs, and each chair has a word, and you tell the children to sit down at one at a time, and the person who doesn't sit down, you eliminate that chair. Well, then the sentence gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you only have one word. The third one is where you have a sentence of 3 words, and you've got the first word, the second word, and the third word. And what you do again is you ask the children whether the sentences that you're telling them. So if I say drink the tea, has 3 words, but then if I say Tina drinks the tea, has 4 words. So the children will have to say yes or no, depending on whether the sentence that I've given them fits into the 3-word format template that we've discovered. These are activities that can be done very quickly. They don't have to take a long time. You could do it while you're telling them to line up. You can do it when they go out to play. In fact, it's a really good activity to do on the playground, because you can put the words on the wall and have the children go and touch the right words. Then you take one word off and you ask the children which word has been taken off. So these are things that you can really do as games, but you can also do them as worksheets. I'm not a worksheet person. I don't like worksheets. But let's say you're doing it as you're doing it in the form of worksheets. Then you have them identify which of the different words has been taken off. The next one is syllables, segmenting, and blending. We all know what syllables are. They are the little chunks that make up the words. So the syllable games, you can have them have, every time they say a syllable, they jump. For example, you have them line up and you say a word, and they have to jump the number of times, the number of syllables that are in that word. So, for example, if I have a line of children and I say elephant, I expect them to jump 3 times. If I say alligator, I expect them to jump 4 times. So the more you do that, the more they're able to understand the syllables. Clapping it out. When you say a word, you tell them to repeat the word and clap out the syllables. Alligator, elephant, right? Hopping is another one where you do, I don't know if you remember how to play hopscotch, if you ever played hopscotch. What you do is you draw these boxes on the ground and you put numbers there, and you call out a word, and based on the number of syllables in that word, that's the number of times they will hop. So, and they're trying to get from the beginning to the end. So you can put the words in a bag, and you pull out the bag and you say cat. Well, how many syllables are in cat? 1. The child only gets to hop once. Then you pull out the next word. Elevator. Elevator. Wow, that's elevator. That's 4 syllables. So that child can hop 4 times. The aim is the child that gets to the end is the winner. Of course, you can do the singing out of syllables, where they sing the song, and as they're singing the song, they're singing out the syllables. This is segmenting and blending. Octopus. See here, octopus? Octopus has 3 syllables. So you're going to say octopus, and then you're going to have them blended. Octopus. And that's it. And you do that several times. You have them take out the different syllables and then blend them together. You can actually write different syllables on notepad or on index cards and put those syllables in a bag and have them pull out the syllables and try and make a word from the different syllables that they've pulled out. So all of this, believe it or not, comes into phonics. Believe it or not, because you have to have phonemic awareness before you can do phonics. Well, she's having a good time. Onset and rhymes. Onset and rhymes is something that we seldom teach, but it's important. Even within the syllable can be broken down to the onset and the rhyme. The onset is that first letter. It's a consonant, and the rhyme is the one that follows. So, for example, pan only has one syllable. The onset of pan is p. That first sound is p. An is the next sound, is the onset. So pan, one syllable, onset p, rhyme, an. P, et, t, in, b, ed. Not every word has an onset. So, for example, the word in, you can't say in. That's not an onset and rhyme. In is the rhyme for the word tin. So not every word, but every word that starts with a consonant has an onset. And you can have children play games where they identify the onsets and rhyme. So the initial phonological unit of any word which contains the initial consonant or consonant blend, right? And then the rhyme is a string of letters that follow that. It can be vowel or it can be a consonant, like T, E, or I'm trying to think of one. Sty. For example, the word cat, K is the onset, at is the rhyme. Okay, phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is the ability to notice, think about, and work with individual sounds or phonemes in the spoken word. If you think about it as phonemic awareness involves the spoken word. It's the ability to manipulate the sounds in the word. This includes blending, stretching, and otherwise changing the words. You saw I said cat, bat, lat, fat. You're just changing the words. You're not looking at any written thing. You're just manipulating the sounds in your mind. Children can demonstrate phonemic awareness in several ways. They can do it by isolating and saying the first and the last sound of the word. Cat, bat, dog, sit. That's all phonemic awareness. It's not phonics. It's the spoken word, not the written word. Combining and blending the separate sounds in a word to say that word. So, combining dog to say dog, it to say sit, map to say map. Breaking or segmenting a word into its separate sounds. So you've got dog. You ask a child to break. What sounds do you hear? D or g. That is phonemic awareness. Up. And recognizing which words in a set of words begins with the same sound. So, for example, bell, bike, boy. They all start with the same letter, which is B. B. That's the beginning sound. So here you are, bell, bike. Oh, and a boy that's doing a turn. All right. Phonemic awareness and phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and phonics are different, very different, but they are interrelated. You cannot have phonic. You can't master phonics if you don't have phonemic awareness. Sometimes people confuse them, but they're not. They're very, very different. Phonological and phonemic awareness are sometimes confused with phonics, but they are very different. They're different yet interrelated skills. I've talked about phonemic awareness and phonological awareness being the awareness of the spoken language and how words, the spoken sounds work together to form the words. Phonics refers to the alphabetic principle, the idea that letters represent the sounds of the spoken language. And children cannot hear or work phonemic language, spoken language. They'll have a real difficult time with phonics. Okay, so now we're going on to phonics and decoding. I'm going to ask you to take a couple of minutes to write down everything you can remember about phonemic awareness and what you think you will be able to use immediately in your class when you get to class. Don't forget, it doesn't have to take a long time. It can be something really quick. It could just be something like, let's clap out your name. Jonathan, Jonathan, Chukwemeka, Chukwemeka, just whatever your name is, count it out. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Phonics instruction teaches the relationship between the letters, the written language, and the spoken sound. That's the difference between phonemic and phonics. Phonemic, you're purely dealing with the spoken word. Phonics, you're dealing with how the written language translates to the spoken word. Reading development is dependent on understanding that alphabetic principles, the idea that letters and letter patterns represent the sounds of a spoken word. So you see the difference? Phonics has to do with the written word and how they represent the sounds of the spoken words, whereas phonemic is purely the sound and the words formed from those sounds. Decoding is the act of sounding out the words using phonics. Okay. Programs I'm going like this because I can't that. Programs that are really effective in instruction, in phonics instruction, should be systematic. Or that means the letters sound relationship is taught in an organized and logical sequence. You can't just take one letter and another letter, another letter. That's one reason why Jolly Phonics is so effective, because whoever designed it, Mr. and Mrs. Jolly, they must have sat down and said, how, what do words come together? How do these words come together? And what makes it possible for children to read? So if a child is just learning just the sounds and not learning the sounds that are likely to come together, then that's not organized and it's not logical. They have to be explicit. The instruction provides the teachers with the precise directions for teaching letter-sound relationships. Whatever program you choose to use, whether you're going to make up your own or you're going to buy one or you're going to go to Jolly Phonics, whatever program it is, there have to be precise instructions and directions of how you're going to teach the letter-sound relationship. Effective phonics instruction provides frequent opportunities for children to apply what they are learning about letters and sounds to the reading of words, sentences, and stories. When you're reading your story, when they're reading their story, you can have them sound out the letters. You can have them sound out the words. You can have them look at the words and see how they come together to form a sentence. Effective phonics instruction is, as I said, systematic and explicit phonics instruction. It significantly improves word recognition. If a child is able to recognize the word and recognize when that word looks right and doesn't look right, then they're going to be better spellers and the reading comprehension is going to be greater. It's most effective when, as kindergartners, when you get up to the kindergarten stage, they use phonics in a comprehensive reading program. If you have at-risk students, if you have students with learning disabilities, if you have students if you have special needs students, it's really important that this phonics be taken seriously, because it gives them a sense of achievement when they're able to sound out the letters, sound out the words. Okay. All right, different types of instruction. You've got the analytical phonics instruction. This is what a lot of people used to use, where children would take a word and they'd apply their knowledge of one word to another word. The student would use their knowledge of a word and the way a word sounds, and they would say, okay, if this is written like this, that means that this is how this should be written. This is not appropriate for struggling readers, because when a reader is struggling already and then they start guessing and they guess wrong. I remember there was a joke when I was growing up. It said, if you play, you're a player. If you read, you're a reader. If you pray, you're a prayer. And that's what happens when you're just guessing, when you're using an analytic phonics to do your reading instruction. So, for example, bat, sat, sat, sit, bit. Going from the whole to the part is part of the analytic. You got from bat, you're going to change the B to an S. So because this says bat, you're going to assume that this will say sat. So then you're going to say sa, you're going to change the T to a P, and that sat becomes sat. This is all very well and good if you have a child who is not struggling. And I'm not saying you can't do this. There are lots of, I do flip books. When I was in teaching early years and teaching beginning readers, I used to do flip books that would have portions of a word and you'd flip it and another letter would come out and you'd have them read it. It worked. But what it does, it focuses on the onset and rhyming patterns, and it helps the students to develop the ability to manipulate words by switching the letters. Okay, so this is what I said. Sat to sap to sit to bit. Okay. Analogical phonics. Teaching students unfamiliar words by analogy. By analogy to known words. The same, basically, kick, sick, jump, blump, dump, fun, run, sun, lick. All of these, the reason you can read them is because you know the familiar word. You know what the rhyme is, so it's just a matter of putting the onset. And this, as I said, you can do with a flip book. But what more people are doing nowadays is they're using synthetic phonics instructions. Synthetic, meaning children are allowed to synthesize. They synthesize the words. They bring the words together based on their understanding of the sounds of the phonemes. Okay? So blending the sounds together and sounding out the entire word. So b-at makes bat. So they have to recognize each sound, and then they have to recognize each letter. The letter is the grapheme. So they understand that the B sounds like B, that the A sounds like A, and the T is T. So B-A-T is B-A-T, bat. And then they hook that to something that they're familiar with, which is a bat. Synthetic instruction is explicit teaching of every single part of the code. It's going from the part to the whole. So as I said here, you went from the part, the b-at, to the whole, bat. When you get to here, when you're doing synthetic phonics instruction, that's the way you're teaching. That's the way a lot of people teach. Your reading and spelling are reversible. In other words, if I know that b-at spells bat, and then someone says to me, we're going to have a spelling test. Okay, write the word bat. I can go bat and write bat. Handwriting is very important. So one of the things that we do a lot is have them write have them write things down. It's important for motor memory. You have them write things down, or you use what they call sand boxes, sand trays, and you have them use their fingers to write it down. If you're reading a book, only introduce text that includes the words that you have already taught, if that book is going to be part of your reading instruction. So, for example, if I'm doing the Cat in the Hat, I'm going to assume that I have taught them cat, hat, bat, lat, fat, whatever. And Dr. Seuss did a very good job of that. It made it very easy to teach synthetic phonics. Blending. I'm going to move my camera a little bit because it's getting in my way. Beginning blends and digraphs. So you've got the rhyme is the ung. So the beginning blend is when you have two sounds together, two consonants together, two sounds together. And so, for example, here you've got your ung is the rhyme, and you got st, that is the beginning blend. St, 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 st. So you're going to teach the children beginning blends. St, ung, stung, clung, brung, swung. You're teaching them that. So here are a couple, well, it's a chart of beginning blends, and you're welcome to print them out, whatever you want to do. But like any game you want to play, you can have this beginning blend board, have each child have a beginning blend board, and then you say the rhyme, and you have them form words from the by combining the rhyme that you have just told them with the beginning blend. Okay, a digraph is two letters that make up one sound. Digraph is two letters that make up one sound. It can be two vowels or two consonants. A trigraph is a single sound that is represented by three letters. Like in school, you have a trigraph. School, SCH, school. Consonant diagrams are it says are taught in reception. For us, we tend to, in Nigeria, we tend to teach things much earlier than they do over here. Consonants are two groups of two consonants that make up a single sound. So ch in chat, sh in ship, in thick, in what, in phone, k in sock. Again, these are some more blends and diagrams that you're welcome to use. Just copy them out. Just ask whoever has the PowerPoint to print out this slide for you. Ending blends and diagrams are obviously what they say. They're ending blends. They're blends that end a sentence or a word. Sorry, a word. So ND is and, sand, nk, sank, ng, sang, nt, sant. So these are words that you can, again, you can give them the onset and have the ending blends be the rhyme. So, and you can have them play games by just taking an onset and linking it up with an ending blend and see if it makes sense. Say, is there such a word as this? Yes, no, yay. Yes, no, maybe so. This is another slide of different consonant blends that you're welcome to copy out. Ways to teach phonics. There are several ways to teach phonics. Games, lots and lots of games. There are many, many, many games that you can get. You can ask for every grade level. You can even make up games where the children, you can take sheets of paper, a construction paper, you can put all sorts of letters on them, and you can create your own games. You can laminate them so that the children don't mess them up. You can have the children, each child has a letter on their chest, and have them come together to form a word. These are different games that you can play. Read alouds. Read alouds are where you are, you're going to read aloud, and you're going to make sure as you say the words, you're underlining You're pointing out what that word says. So that's part of the phonics. And if you want them to identify the syllable, you point out the different syllables as you say the words. You can have them sing songs. I remember the song that we sang about hippopotamus. H-I-P for the hippopo, P-O-P-O for the hippopo, you know. So you have them sing out the words and clap. Rhymes, you have them say rhymes. And when they're saying the rhymes, you have them identify what the letters in the rhymes or the words in the rhymes. Movement. If you have a big area where the children can move around, if not, maybe if you go out on recess and have them move around, there are many songs that you can have them sing, and as they say a word, they hold up that word and they move. So there's a song that we used to sing. The farmer's in his den. Okay, the child that was a farmer would have the word farmer. So if you said the farmer's in his den, every time you say the farmer, he would hold up the word farmer. The farmer's in his den. The farmer's in his den. The farmer wants a wife, so the person with the wife would hold up the wife, and the wife would go and stand in the middle of the circle with the farmer. So it's the farmer wants a wife. The farmer wants a wife. So every time you say those things, the children will move around. That's how to identify words. I've already talked about flip charts and obviously worksheets. As I said, I am not a big worksheet proponent, but that doesn't mean that people can't use them to teach phonics. Build a word activities. Those are ones where you have like this thing in the yellow banana where you can have them build their own words, you know, have them come up with their own words. One of the things I like to do is have the children invent their own words and tell me what that word means. I was very open to things like that. There are some teachers who feel that maybe that would be something that might mislead the children. I don't think so, but it's up to you. But you can also have them build regular words, have them create their own words. I had a game that I used to play when I was doing in-service training for class, and I'd give them all letters, and I'll tell them to give me a word that has 2 consonants and 1 vowel. And they would have to scramble and give me a word with 2 consonants and 1 vowel. Obviously, that's you're dealing with the older children, not probably like kindergarten or even first grade would do it. But the children love doing it. Okay, so before I go on to that, so we're going to stop for a while, and I'm going to ask you to take another 10-minute break, 10 or 15-minute break, and talk to your group about what kinds of activities you think you're already doing or you would like to do to teach phonics. I was saying Jolly Phonics is simply a way to teach phonics. It has been arranged in an orderly and efficient way, which with actions for each of the 42 letter sounds. The multiple sensory method, remember they do actions, they do sounds, they do all sorts of things. But remember that Johnny Phonics is simply a method. It's not the only method by any stretch of the imagination, but it is simply a method that has been systematically organized to teach children how to read using the 42 letter sounds, using multisensory methods, and grouping the words together in 7 groups. The letter orders are not alphabetical. This enables the students to be able to build words as early as possible. So if a child knows A and a child knows B and a child knows G, that child can read the word bag. Whereas if a child knows B and S and then doesn't know any other letter, then you can't really build a word. Johnny Phonics works by allowing the children to develop 5 key skills for reading and writing. Learning the letter sounds, learning the word formations, blending, identifying the sounds in the words, and then they have a section called tricky words.
Okay, learning the letter sounds. As I said, it's 42 main sounds in English. They're not just alphabets, they're sounds. And there are more sounds than there are alphabets because you have some sounds that are blended, you have some sounds that are grouped together. So, for example, E and O, those are sounds. U and F make different sounds. So, even though the letters, you have a set number of letters, you have 42 distinct sounds. And in Jolly Phonics, they have taken those sounds and they have created multi-sensory activities that go with the letter sounds. The second part of Johnny Phonics is letter formation. It's extremely important for a child to know how to hold the pencil correctly. It's extremely important for a child to know how to, that the pencil starts in the middle, not the top. That M and N, there is an initial downstroke, and the letter M looks like as I said, like the McDonald's arches. The Jolly Phonics is has a really good work guide book that you can work with. And I would advise, if you're going to use Jolly Phonics, you need to go use their guide because they have worked a lot to put this together. Number three is blending. Blending is the process of saying the individual sounds in a word, then running them together to make the word. Remember, I said b-us, bus, t-up, top. Okay. T-up, top, h-n, hen. So those are the things that the third part of the Johnny Phonics system does. Remember, we talked about the digraphs and we talked about the onset and we talked about the rhyme. All of those things that we talked about as part of the phonics system and the phonemic awareness system, all of those come in when you're dealing with the synthetic phonics instruction. So, number four, it's what's it called? It's identifying the sounds within a word. So the easiest way to know how to spell is to listen to the sounds within the word. So, for example, there are games that we used to do. I Spy with My Little Eye, something beginning with H, and everybody had to start guessing what that thing beginning with H would be. Add a sound. What if I get a P to ink? It will give me pink. What if I get a B to S? It would give me bit bus. What if I put an M with an ice? It would give me mice. You know, those kinds of games are the kinds of things that Jolly Phonics has a lot of that you can use to help your children build their phonics awareness, their phonics skills. And fifth, last but not least, is what they call the tricky words. These are the numbers of ways of learning, of looking at words and learning words. Look, cover, write, check. Look at the word to see if it's a bit tricky. Ask the children to try writing the word in the air, saying the letters. Cover the word over and see if the child can write it correctly. Say it as it sounds. Say the words so each sound is heard. For instance, the word said was, it said was to rhyme with mass, so it would be was, mass. The word Monday is said as Monday. Mnemonics, each initial letter of each word is in a saying gives the correct word its spelling, gives the correct spelling of the word. For example, laugh, laugh. That L is what gives the correct spelling for the word laugh. Okay, so Jolly Phonics has, as I said, It has its own guide, it has its own method, but fundamentally the methods are still the same. It's just the arrangement that's different. In its letter sound recognition, you're dealing purely with phonics and phonemic awareness and phonological awareness. Learning letter formation, that's pure phonics. Blending is pure phonics. I've told you all about, I've given you activities that you can use for blending. I've given you activities that you can use for many of these. Identifying the sounds in a word, segmenting. You segment the word, you segment the sentence, and I've given you some ideas for tricky words. Um, the if you're not using Johnny Phonics, you can still use this format with the program that you're using. Just make sure that whatever you're doing, you realize that the children have to understand that there is a relationship between the sound a letter makes, the sound that's made, the graph, the word that's the letter that's described or that's drawn, and what it represents.